So in the first video, we downloaded Papyrus UML Lite, and now we're going to work through the project and their Getting Started guide. So here's our Eclipse Getting Started with Papyrus UML Lite, and we've already done the installation steps. Let me go down to Use Case Modeling, Online System right here. So we're going to be looking at the online shopping system and trying to build a few diagrams for the system. So if you open up Papyrus, then you're going to see three different areas. Let me go back up there. So this is what we're going to see. We're going to see our toolbar at the top, a project and a model explorer on the left, and then down here we'll see our project, I'm going to call it a project explorer, and Properties Explorer, and that will tell us the different name and connectivity of the different objects in the model. So let me open up Papyrus, and while that opens up, let's see if I can make some room. So it's going to ask where I would like to store my work, and in my workspace, I'm going to launch it. So I have, there we go. So let's talk about the online system project review. And we want our customers to be able to browse and search for products. We need to be able to, the customer should be able to add or remove products from their shopping cart. And they want to be able to view what they've already put in their shopping cart, purchase items, and we're going to have the use of an online payment service outside of our system. And let's see. So this is pretty important. Let's go through this. So here is our actors and use case table. So the actors would be the customer database to keep track of their names and their IDs and a unique identifier. The product manager is going to keep track of all the products we have for sale, details about each product, inventory, where they're located, and maybe a picture. And then we'll have that product database, so the product manager will control that model. And then the customer database would be another model. And then we'll have an outside payment service that we will, our system will interact with. So those are the actors across the top in the blue row. And then we have a bunch of use cases. The customer should be able to log in. The customer should be able to find and search for products. And the system should allow a customer to add a product to their cart. Should allow the customer to view their cart and to check out. So all of those are our functional requirements. And we're going to need to be able to handle a lot of customers at a time because there'll be hopefully a lot of customers interacting with our system. We're going to have response times and constraints on the amount of time we're down. And we want to definitely make sure we have correctness and valid procedures and don't mischarge people. So a lot of different requirement analysis would go into this as well. So once we've identified the actors and their use cases, that's our actor and use case table, a nice way to concisely represent all of that information. We're going to build a use case diagram. So that will be our first diagram for our system. So we're going to have the subject, which will be our system, and anything inside the system will be inside a boundary of a rectangle, and say the customer will be outside the system, and the databases could be outside the system. The actors are going to be any entity that interacts with our system, the OSS. And then we'll have functionality. Those are the use cases. When we have communication between an actor and our subject, those are going to be represented by our edges. So we'll have a palette in a minute, which will have our entities like the subject and the actors, and objects inside our system, which will be the use cases. And then those will be nodes. And then we'll have the edges, which represent the association, the information, the exchange, and the tangible outcomes produced by the system for the actor. Those will be the associations. Now, you can have generalizations of an entity, which means they inherit a lot of the properties. You can have an include, so if a use case gets pretty complicated, complex, then you might want to break that down into smaller module cases, and so it might create an instance of a particular class, and then you can have extends. And I'm kind of getting the hang of this includes and implements and inherits. So all those coding relationships that you would talk about with classes, and we're representing those here with our nodes and our edges. And so for me, I like math, and that represents a graph theory kind of a visualization of the relationships here. So we're going to create a file. So this is our step-by-step. They have a bunch of check boxes, and I've noticed some of the steps don't really work for me, so I'll try to point those out. We're going to create a file, call it OSS, and then in that file we're going to create a use case diagram. So I'm going to jump over here, bring this into the middle. Maybe we'll go back and forth. So File, New, and keeping that. As I said, I'm using a trackpad, so my precision is not what it could be with a mouse. But nice. So online shopping system. Next. Now I'm going to go ahead and create in my new UML Lite project, I'm going to create a use case diagram. You don't have to do that. You could do that in 2 separate steps. Alright, so you can see the Project Explorer, the Model Explorer, and then the Property View. And now I see my palette where I have the nodes. So we said we were going to have a customer. And when it first pops up, you can go ahead and type in the name. But if you miss it, you can just right-click carefully. I'll show you what happens if you don't. So let me go ahead and put maybe a customer database. So pretend I didn't put the name in there. I'm going to right-click on there again. Wait a second and right-click again. And customer CUSTM database. And we're going to need a product manager, like a product database. Let me put that one in there. So I'm going to pretend like I'm not doing that at all. And if I right-click on him, you notice down here in the properties, I could change the name here as well. So we could make this the product. So those are the some of the actors. I think there was also a payment system. So I'm going to put that in there. Payment. I might forget. Payment system. We'll look at their final product in a second. Now these are all outside of the system that we're creating. So let me grab the subject. Just drop it in here and call that the OSS. That's our online shopping system that we're creating. And there were several things that we wanted this online shopping system to be able to do. And we're going to use these opaque guides in here, opaque nodes. We want to be able to log in. All right, so log in as a user. And there's an association link between the customer. So notice the little bottom node disappears when you're eligible to connect. Disappears. And I'm not going to put arrows on there, so I can send, the customer can send information to this use case through the keyboard and their client. And then the login would then need to verify their information. So let's do customer database. That would have all their records. And if you right-click on this element, you could go down here to the property view, and let's go to advance. And you could change this into the arrows if you would like. So I can make those arrows. And we know that this login, we're going to allow the customer to send information in. And then most likely the controller would change the view and provide information back to the customer, in my opinion, because what if they've entered in their login information incorrectly? Then they would be prompted to try again or to sign up in the account. So this is the beginning of our use case diagram. And I like to change colors. So I'm going to change the color of this login use case. If you right-click and then go to Format and then Fill Color, you can change this to any color you'd like. How about green for login? All right, that's a pretty muted green, but okay. These change colors just for fun. Fill color. Can I make him dark gray? Okay, well that just made that kind of boxy. I don't like that. Undo. Edit. Undo that. And if this font isn't big enough, so I'm right-clicking, Format, and then you could change the font just to be more readable. Maybe 12 point and solid, nice black. Then it becomes a lot more bold, and we can add text in here as well. So let's add text, and we'll call this the OSS use case diagram. Once you finish with this, if you right-click, you can save as an image file, like a PNG. And let's say I'm going to save this as OSS use case diagram. And so if I wanted to include it in a report, I have it ready. Now, a lot of the times if I want to put this in a report, I don't want the grid. So let's see if I can, I think it's on here. So style, appearance, rules and grid, there it is. So if I don't want the grid, I don't want that grid because I like it more clean. Now when I'm doing my arrows and trying to make this line up nicely, left and right, vertical and horizontal, then I need that grid. But before I export it as an image file into a document, I usually remove that so it's cleaner looking. And you can color any of these elements like you want. That's my favorite thing, although, you know, it's not the most important thing. So if we make this a nice yellow, and depending on my monitor, I think my monitor is kind of cruddy here. And that is the first use case. Before I finish, I wanted to show you what they had for their complete use case diagram. So go through all there, the complete use case diagram, and they have their subject. Here's the OSS system. They have the customer, which is a human interacting. It's on the left. That's just tradition. And then our like databases and our outside systems are on the right. And then you have the use cases of the system within the boundary. And notice that the sign-in is interacting with our customer database. They have the extends class. So add to cart is extending find product. But checkout's rather complicated, so they broke it down and included a couple of separate smaller use cases so that when the customer interacts with checkout, then checkout will create an instance of, oh, I made that much bigger. We'll create an instance of pay for products and also an instance of the class select shipping. And these will usually interact with, say, the payment service. So paid products, it's interacting with the payment service. Online, and I can't see if that's, what does that say? Online, that's an interesting way to spell payment. Okay. Online payment is sending a message to the payment service and the credit card payment as well. And that's the first diagram.